I love printing. I love printing. I love it. I love printing. Hey, everybody. Want to welcome you back to another episode of Printer to Printer with me, Warren Werbitt, otherwise known as the Print Whisperer. Today, we have someone special, and I always say somebody distinguished is on the show, but today we have somebody really special, I think, in our world of print. We have Gary Walton from Cincinnati. How do you do?
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So real quickly, before I give Gary a couple minutes to introduce himself, Gary was a professor at Cincinnati State University, teaching print graphics for a lot of years. And then after that, he went on and he created and put together the Cincinnati Type and Print Museum, which is pretty cool. But what I think is even cooler is Gary's working with a ministry called BLOC. Oh, that's it.
Ministries.
Ministry BLOC. Oh, I got it. Great. And what they do is they just help reform people. And in the last 4 or 5 years, they've helped 30, 40 men and women get their lives back on track. And they've helped them get on track through working in the print world of print. So you just covered 3 things that I think are great. And tell me whatever you want to tell me for a couple minutes, and then we'll get into it.
All right, the museum is celebrating our 5th year, and it's just been a sheer joy. The city is behind us and has funded the renovation of our building not once, but twice. We are actually in the process of expanding to building on a 3rd and a 4th building. And then someday we want to take over the entire block, if the Lord wills it, on 8th and State. And at that point, we'll become a communication museum, where the first thing you'll see when you come in is the handprints on the walls of the caves of France. And then from there, you'll go to the Egyptians, to the Hebrews, to the Chinese, and see the whole history of communication and print up to present day. And there'll be a huge display on something called printing electronics, which I'm a big promoter of, printing electronics. So the museum stands on 3 principles. Number 1, we want to be a place to preserve the history of printing in Cincinnati, but also all of printing. 2, when the COVID situation is over, we want a place for artists to come and to experience letterpress printing. But secretly, we want to encourage them to think about careers in print industry. And art is great. It will feed their soul, but they need print to feed their bellies. And so that is the driving force behind bringing artists in, is to encourage them to go in the printing industry. And third, and most important of all, working with BLOC Ministries, we are one of 27 different ministries that our goal is to flip the community where we're in from being one of the poorest and one of the highest dropout rates to being a very good community for Cincinnati. And by doing that, by training second chance individuals, give them the training and put them in careers in the printing industry. Where we are located, we have 25 printers within a 5-mile radius. So it's very easy for us to train these people and for them actually to, in some cases, actually walk to the place where they're going to be working. And that's how you flip a community. You bring wealth into that community by giving people good jobs, giving good pays, and it's no longer a poor community. And so that's a quick summary of what we do.
Wow, pretty incredible. So I'll ask you more about the people first that you're helping get back on their feet. How did you get into that? A couple questions, I guess, and then I'll let you go. So how did you get into it?
It was actually started on that principle. So when I retired, my dean said to me, "There's a group of people down in the Price that were thinking about starting a museum. What do you think?" So I went down and talked to them. I talked to them about a year, and they said, "Nah, we don't want to do this." And I went, "Ah." But 5 minutes later, Dwight Young puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "Can you really get all that equipment donated?" I said, "Yes." "Can you really get all the paper donated?" I said, "Yes." "Can you really get all the ink donated?" "Yes." "Then I've got something for you." And he brought me to the facility where we are now, and it was it was terrible. But after renovating it, and it was actually created to do the training for the BLOC people in the Redeem Home and something called the Lit House, to train them to get them into the working industry. And so that's the training part is what actually caused the whole thing to start.
Wow. And for the people that are coming in, how many have you trained? How many have succeeded? I'm curious as to how many have not. And how hard is it? I mean, I don't think the average person's doing what you're doing.
Uh, I think when you do a tough task, if you start off slow, so like I say, we're in our 5th year, but I've been doing this for over 12 years. And you start out slow and you take a little bites. You don't realize that you're doing this great work. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal to you that you're just training people, but we really are doing it. When you really do think about it, we're doing a great work. We
Yeah.
have trained 30 ladies in the 5 years, 12 men, and then just last year we started working with youth, and we trained 3 youths. Of the 3 youths, 100% placement. Of the 12 men, 10 of those were actually still in the industry. 2 did fall back. And of the women, I'm going to be rough here, but I would say close to 22 of the 30 women are actually still with us in the Redeem Home. What I love about our program, it's not a 2-year program. Most programs are 2 years. And then the person goes right back to whatever addiction they have. We're a 12-year, 12
Wow.
yees. Okay.
Wow.
So, and the goal is you build family, you build community. These ladies hang out with each other. They do events together. They'll go to a movie. They'll go to a ball game. And so there's a family. So when life gets tough, they got a family to fall back on. And that, I think, has a big reason why our success rate is somewhere in the 60 to 65% rate.
Well,
And
I'm
then
going
the
to
other
tell
thing
you,
is,
I
one
have
girl,
I have goosebumps. I know,
one
really.
girl, well, 2 of our girls, Ashley and Tiffany, both left. So I never forget, Ash. I was waiting for Ashley to come in. The girl said, she went back on the street. A year later, she came back, and she is doing fantastic now. She's living in the suburbs. She's got 2 kids. She posts her kids on Facebook. I mean, it's fantastic. And Tiffany's doing the same thing. Tiffany actually is we do a lot of her poems now. We print her poems and then just give them away. So even those girls who leave, they do come back, and that's so we have a very high success rate. That's been
Wow.
I
Are
think again
there
that family part.
are
I think
there
that's the
other
family part.
people? Are there other places around North America doing anything like this?
Probably, but I don't think print related. Out in California, and that's kind of was my model. There's Homeboys Industries, and they have a bakery, I think a screen printing operation, and something else, and they're doing the exact same thing that we are doing. And I can say, back in 2011, I kind of looked them up, and I think a lot of my thinking has come from what they're doing. And there's probably other ones, but I'm just not aware of them.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking, how do we take this maybe and have some conversations with some of the industry people and model this in some places?
I actually put together a little booklet of 26 things a printing company can do to increase the number of people in our industry. And be
You can
happy
send me
to,
that book. I'd be happy to look at
yeah,
it.
I can actually send you a PDF or actual book. But one of them is to start a museum in your city. So I'm at Cincinnati State. I'm trying to recruit people in the industry. That was tough. Um, we might get 30, 40 people come. Here at the museum this year, we're going to break 1,000 people who have come to the
Wow.
museum in just this year alone and exposing them to the printing world. And when I talk about print electronics, it just blows their mind. Just a few minutes ago, there was a group here, and they never heard of that. And in their minds, printing is not a strong industry. But when you show them different things, all of a sudden their eyes light up, and then hopefully they become ambassadors and go out into the community and tell other people, hey, there's career opportunities in the printing field. So starting
That's
a museum is one of the 26 things I recommend you do.
No, you know what? People thinking print's not good, it's because they don't get it and they don't know. And I think we within the industry, aside from myself, who's just screaming it all day, every day, that I love print and how important it is, I don't think we have enough people screaming loud enough in the industry about how good it is or how important it is.
Yes,
Lately, I've just been, and I did a video the other day. I'm just saying to everybody, like, you get it. Without print, there is no other industry. and and and
correct.
and I think about people in business that have these businesses where they have people coming to them and they know they have a good business and they know they have a lock on and they know they're in control because of the people coming and of what they have and they want. I just think in our business we got to take it back and let people know that we're in control, right? And we'll get
Yes.
it done for you, but it's on our terms.
As we say here, life revolves around print.
Oh my God.
That should be a t-shirt.
It's funny you say that. As you were saying that, I'm just going to write that down.
Life revolves around print. You're
I like.
wearing print. You got print in your wallet. The credit cards and money's printed. The clothing you're wearing is probably printed. Your Formica countertops are printed. Your wallpapers printed. Your newspapers and magazines, your
Oh,
books, all printed. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
yeah. I say you
Life
wake up.
revolves around
I,
print.
I say you wake up in the morning and on my night table is all my books printed, and then I drag my sorry ass into the bathroom and the toothpaste thing is printed, and the deodorant, and then there's a label on the shampoo box, shampoo, and then on the soap, and I haven't even left the bathroom and I've bombarded with 2,000 pieces of print, and then I go into the kitchen and the butter's wrapped in a printed thing, and then the bread's in a printed bag, and everything everywhere we go. I think when people say print, I think they just refer to a brochure, a book, or a piece of paper, right? But not in.
Yes, because your countertop was printed, your flooring material is printed, your wallpaper is printed. So you left out those items. And then when you think about your appliances, all those numbers had to be printed on there. All that information had to be printed on there.
Oh,
And in
your car. Open up your car door on the driver's
yeah,
side, right? The passenger seat, right down.
yeah.
It's pretty good. So, a question: how's the print community in Cincinnati?
120 years ago, we were the second largest printing center in the world. We're still
Wow.
very strong. We're at number 11th right now, according to the last statistics that were gathered. So very healthy. I mail to over 800 printing companies, but they're all different kinds of companies now. So when I say printing companies, I'm also talking about paper suppliers, ink suppliers, press suppliers, some graphic design companies if they're actually involved in print in some way. But actual printing facilities, easily over 600 of those, are people putting ink on paper, plastic, metal, wood.
Wow. Wow. Do all the printers in Cincinnati contribute to the museum?
Most of our funding comes from foundations. The second largest group is from just people who believe in our cause, and the one who's going to, but they're going to improve this year is the printing industry. They're about 12% of our support, but they need to be closer to 50% of our support, but not yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we should make a list of all the printers and start calling them out by name if they don't support you. Right? And to the ones that do, we thank the printers that do support the industry and the museum. But for the printers that, should they be listening, you got to give something.
Yes.
If you're going to ask the industry for something, you got to be prepared to give something back. And I think what you're doing at the museum and with the ministries is beyond giving back, right? I'm thinking like, how do we take this on the road and make a road show out of it?
So just like a man or woman gets called to go to Africa and be a missionary, I truly believe I was called to serve in the printing industry, and that's the difference.
Me too. Crazy way.
You and I, and also Kelly. I'll put Kelly in that game too. We're rare in that we're going to do this, and we're going to put our heart and soul in this, and be passionate about this. We're going to live life to its fullest, and it's just not a job to us. It is a career. It is a path, and not everybody thinks that way. I found out. So we have a challenge ahead of us. Yes,
we have a challenge. It's been like that for a long time.
Yes.
I'm kind of hoping now that we could encourage people to maybe change some of the ways they think, or change some of their habits.
Yes.
Because now's the time. I think for everybody, now that the pandemic came and went and lingers a little, but if we've learned anything during the pandemic and all that time off, is now's the time that you can make the change. Now the time that everybody's fresh. Now's the time that I think most people forgot everything they used to do the way they do it.
Yes.
Right? Because 2 years, 1 year or 2 years, depending where you are, is a long time.
Yes.
Right? And you have to break out again.
It's also wise to be passionate. You know, if you're a printer talking to a customer and you come across as being passionate to your industry, and it's a very competitive industry, as a customer, I'm going to be more willing to give my business to a printer who's compassionate, who's doing things to improve the community, than just anybody else. So it's not, for profit is another reason why you should be passionate.
Oh, it's listen, you know what? The basics of life and business are pretty simple, right? You get up in the morning, you get dressed, you go out, you do what you have to do, you follow the rules, you do it the right way, and at the end of the day, everybody should be successful. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way, and some things roll back, and then you get a couple people that aren't carrying their weight. So it just makes it a little tougher for the others. But wow. And so how many kids do you think you've spoken to over 35 years in school?
I've trained over 3,400 people in my.
But who's counting?
Well, when you So also let me back up. So when I started in '76, and I had a lab with nothing in it, and I wanted all this high tech stuff, I looked at RIT and they just had everything. They were the school back in the '70s. And so I called them up one day and said, "How do you get all these toys to teach printing with you?" And they said, "Well, people donate it." And so that's when I realized I had to change my philosophy. I remember going to my dean and telling him I needed money to buy presses, and he gave me
He
$1,000.
laughed.
And I went, "What's this?" And he was so happy he's giving me $1,000. I said, "This won't even buy a skid of
I
paper."
was going to
I
say
said,
it
"Give it to
doesn't
the
cover the
horticulture
paper on
people;
the
they'll
setup.
use it." And that's when I started a whole campaign of promoting the program. So when you're talking to a vendor and you're trying to get them to put a Heidelberg press in your facility, you need to say things like, "We've trained over 3,400 people. We have over $2 million in gifts given to the museum. You should be a part of this team." So I don't want you to think I'm boasting. I did that for the
No,
fundraising part,
that's
you know. But I
that.
trained over 3,400 people, but I probably spoke to easily 50, 60,000 people in my career because I didn't just sit in the classroom. I went out and got involved with the FTA, the PIA, the Screen Printing Association, the Gravure Association. And so I've just had a great life of traveling around this country talking about printing. And yeah, and so somewhere in that neighborhood is people I've talked to and still talking to a lot of people.
Wow.
I just
Yeah.
spoke to the
Listen, I
Cincinnati
mean,
Museum.
I, I think we're probably age-wise, not little difference in between, but speaking to people nonstop every day, it doesn't end. It's
Right.
every time I get an email from somebody, and lately I got to tell you, I'm humbled. I've been getting a lot of email complimenting me on what I'm doing, talking, the passion. And there's nothing that makes me more excited than when I get on the phone with someone who loves it. I mean, when you reached out to me and I called you, our conversation just lit up because it's like I was talking to myself in the phone, just you're a little farther away. And
Yes.
it's nice because I didn't have to do any convincing or brainwashing or, I didn't have to threaten to beat you up if just to tell you that you love print. Cool. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to let anybody know or do or say?
So I would think it'd be cool if 4 or 5 years from now, other cities would take the work that we have done and duplicate that in St. Louis, Detroit, Chicago, wherever. There are several printing museums right now, but they're not doing any training. And I think that's something they need to think about doing, is making training a part of what they do. We have to do something to increase the number of people going into the industry. Right now, we're just stealing from each other. I have printers call me all the time, want me to tell them where a press operator is and I'm not
Well,
going to do that. I said,
no,
no, I said, let's do
sorry,
it.
what we need to do? We need to start hiring younger people and training them to do jobs, not stealing from the competition, because all you're really getting is everybody else's garbage because the best people don't leave where they are, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
and we have to stop being so cheap and look at it in a positive way,
yes.
right?
One of the things I'm doing, which is unique, I'm looking at a 3-week training program. So just 3 weeks, I'm going to train you to build all the basic fundamentals so that you can then take them and put them into your situation. They'll know a lot of stuff, but then train them to the way that you want to be trained. I don't think you need 2 years or 4 years. I think 3 weeks of good, intense, basic training is all you need. And from there, you can take
Well,
that
I
person
agree,
and make them a valuable
and I
employee.
think everybody wants to teach those people their own bad habits. They don't want them coming in with other bad habits, right? So that's
Yeah,
cool.
maybe.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, okay, so we got to wrap this up, but Gary, all I could say is truthfully and humbly, thank you for reaching out to me in the first place. Meeting you is super duper special.
Thank
What
you.
you're doing, oh my, I take my hat off, I tip my hat to you, and I only wish you the best with all the other endeavors that you're continuing with. I look forward to getting down to Cincinnati and being in the museum and meeting you and some of the people around there. If there's
Well, I'm
anything,
coming to Columbus. I'm coming to Columbus in
okay,
August to
well,
see you.
okay, great, thank you, and
And I'll bring you a copy of my booklet on awakening. It's called Awakening the Printer That Lives in All of Us.
oh, perfect, and just make sure you sign the inside cover. And if there's anything that I could do to help promote any of the things that you're doing, it would be my honor and my pleasure to help you.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, to everybody else listening, I hope you enjoyed today's session. A little different, not talking to a printer, talking to another person who is passionate and loves print. When this gets posted, I will put the website down in the write up so that everybody can click and have access to it. To everybody, I thank you for listening. Warren Werbitt, what they think. I love print.